Shalom, my friends. I am Rabbi Simon, and tonight I am going to say something that most spiritual teachers will not say. That glass of wine you pour every evening is not relaxation. That bottle you open on Friday night is not celebration. That drink you reach for after a hard day is not a reward. It is an escape hatch, and you know it. You know it because the moment the glass is empty, the thing you were escaping from is still there. The anxiety, the emptiness, the feeling that your life is a treadmill and the belt is speeding up and you cannot get off. The drink did not solve it. The drink put a curtain over it for 90 minutes. And when the curtain opens again, the stage is darker than before. 3,000 years ago, the Torah told a story about the first man who ever got drunk. His name was Noah. He had just survived the destruction of the entire world. He had witnessed every living thing perish. He stepped off the ark onto empty, silent earth, and the first thing he did was plant a vineyard. Not wheat, not fruit, a vineyard. Because Noah could not bear the weight of what he had seen, and the wine promised to make the weight disappear. It did not disappear. It destroyed him. Tonight I will show you why you really drink. Not the surface reason, not the "I just enjoy a glass of wine" reason, the deep reason, the spiritual reason, the reason that 3,000 years of Torah wisdom identified long before neuroscience confirmed it. I will show you what alcohol actually does to your soul, not your liver, your soul. I will show you why the temporary relief it provides is the most expensive relief you will ever buy. And I will give you something better, something real, something that addresses the actual wound that the alcohol is pretending to heal. If you are someone who drinks to cope, drinks to unwind, drinks to fill an emptiness you cannot name, or if you love someone who does, stay with me. This teaching may save a life, it may save yours. Let me ask you something, and I need you to be honest, not with me, with yourself. When was the last time you had a drink, and you did not need it? I do not mean the occasional glass of wine at a wedding. I mean the drink that calls to you, the one your hand reaches for before your mind has made a decision, the one that has become so woven into your evening routine that you cannot imagine Tuesday night without it. When was the last time you came home from work, sat down and felt, without the drink, that you were enough? That the silence of the room was bearable, that the weight of your own thoughts did not require chemical assistance? How many evenings have you told yourself just one glass and finished the bottle? How many mornings have you woken up foggy, heavy, slightly ashamed, not drunk, not hungover exactly, but diminished, a lesser version of yourself? And by noon the shame fades, and by 6 in the evening the hand reaches again. How many promises have you made to yourself? I will stop after this week. I will only drink on weekends. I will cut back. How many of those promises are still standing? If you recognize yourself in any of this, even a little, even one sentence, write in the comments right now, "I am ready to be honest." Write it. Because honesty is the first crack in the wall, and tonight, we are going to break that wall down. Let me tell you something that the alcohol industry does not want you to know, that the social culture around drinking does not want you to see, and that your own mind has been hiding from you. You do not drink because you enjoy it. You drink because something inside you is in pain, and the alcohol is the cheapest, fastest, most socially acceptable painkiller available. Let me explain what I mean, both from the perspective of the soul and from the perspective of the brain, because they are telling the same story. The brain. What alcohol actually does. When you take your first sip of alcohol, your brain releases a surge of dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward. This is why the first drink feels good. It feels like relief. It feels like the volume on your anxiety has been turned down. But here is what happens next. Your brain, which is designed to maintain balance, immediately begins to compensate. It reduces its own natural production of dopamine and increases the production of dynorphin, a chemical that creates feelings of unease, dissatisfaction, and low-level misery. This is the brain's way of restoring equilibrium. The result? Within hours of drinking, your baseline mood is lower than it was before you drank. You feel worse than you did before the first sip, not dramatically worse, subtly worse, a little more anxious, a little more restless, a little more empty. And what is the fastest way to make that feeling go away? Another drink. This is what neuroscientists call the hedonic treadmill of addiction. You drink to feel normal. The drinking makes your normal worse, so you drink again and again and again. You are not chasing pleasure anymore. You are chasing the absence of the pain that the drinking itself created. Dr. Anna Lemke at Stanford University describes this as the brain's pleasure-pain balance. Every time you tip the balance toward pleasure through a substance, the brain tips it back toward pain. And over time, the pain side gets heavier and heavier. The person who used to feel fine without a drink now feels terrible without one. Not because their life got worse, because their brain chemistry has been altered by the very substance they were using to feel better. This is the trap. This is the lie. The drink promises relief. It delivers a debt, and the interest rate is your peace of mind. The soul. What the Kabbalists understood. Now let me show you the same truth from a depth that neuroscience cannot reach. Because the Kabbalists understood something about intoxication that goes beyond brain chemistry. In the mystical tradition, every human being has two fundamental drives. The first is called shove, the drive to survive, to be grounded, to function in the material world, pay the bills, feed the family, keep the machinery of life running. This is the voice of the body. The second is called ratzo, the drive to transcend, to rise above the ordinary, to touch something infinite. This is the voice of the soul. It is the ache that says, there must be more than this. It is the hunger that material success cannot feed. It is the fire that burns in every human being who has ever stared at the ceiling at 2 a.m. and felt that something essential is missing from their life. In a healthy life, these two drives are in balance. The ratzo reaches upward. The shove pulls back to earth. Like a heartbeat, expansion, contraction, expansion, contraction. Like breathing, inhale, exhale. The rhythm of a life that is both grounded and transcendent. But what happens when a person's ratzo, their hunger for transcendence, for meaning, for something beyond the ordinary, has no healthy outlet? What happens when the soul is on fire and there is no vessel to hold the flame? They reach for a substitute. They reach for anything that simulates the experience of transcendence, anything that briefly lifts them out of the gray, grinding ordinariness of survival. Alcohol, drugs, extreme experiences, compulsive intensity. Alcohol is the most common substitute because it is the most accessible. One glass of wine, and the default mode of the brain, the relentless narrator that says you are not enough, you have not done enough, the bills are due, the deadline is coming, you are falling behind. That narrator goes quiet, for an hour, for an evening, and in that silence, the person feels something that resembles peace, something that resembles transcendence. But it is not peace, it is numbness, and it is not transcendence. It is what the Torah calls Eish Zarah, a strange fire, an alien fire, a fire that looks like light but produces only smoke. The Kabbalists teach that true transcendence expands the vessel. It makes you more capable, more present, more alive. But intoxication does the opposite. It shrinks the vessel. It makes you less capable, less present, less alive. It borrows from tomorrow's clarity to pay for tonight's numbness, and the debt compounds. This is why the morning after feels like a diminishment, not just physically, spiritually. Something in you is smaller, something in you has contracted. The vessel that holds your consciousness has been damaged, slightly, imperceptibly, but damaged. And over months and years, the damage accumulates. The vessel that once held your full self now holds a fraction, and the person you were, the person who felt deeply, who saw clearly, who connected to others with full presence, that person is disappearing, glass by glass, night by night. The Torah is not a rule book. It is a mirror, and when it shows you a story about alcohol, it is showing you yourself. Let me hold up the mirror. Noah, the man who survived everything and then drowned in wine. Genesis, chapter 9. Noah has just lived through the apocalypse. He spent a year inside the ark, surrounded by chaos, loss, and death. He watched the entire world he knew disappear beneath the water. He emerges onto a silent, empty earth. He is, by every measure, the most traumatized man in human history. And the first thing he does is plant a vineyard. The rabbis in Bereshit Rabbah note, not wheat for bread, not olives for oil, a vineyard for wine. Noah's first priority on the new earth was not to build, not to plant food, not to create shelter. It was to produce the one substance that would make him forget what he had seen. He drinks. He gets so intoxicated that he strips naked and collapses in his tent. His son Ham finds him and violates him. The man who survived the flood, the man God chose to preserve the human race, is destroyed not by water, but by wine. Not by the catastrophe, but by his method of coping with the catastrophe. This story is 3,000 years old, and it is the story of every person who has ever used alcohol to escape pain. The pain does not disappear. The alcohol strips you bare. It exposes you. It leaves you vulnerable to harm that the pain itself would never have caused. Noah was safe from the flood. He was not safe from the bottle. Nadav and Avihu, the holy men who burned Leviticus chapter 10. The two eldest sons of Aaron the high priest, Nadav and Avihu, enter the Holy of Holies on the day of the tabernacle's dedication. They bring Eish Zarah, a strange fire, and are consumed. They die instantly. One of the opinions in the Talmud, Vayikra Rabbah 12:1, is that Nadav and Avihu were intoxicated when they entered. They had been drinking, and in that intoxicated state, they felt an overwhelming desire to reach God, to touch the infinite, to transcend the ordinary. The alcohol gave them the feeling of transcendence without the vessel to hold it, the razzo without the shove, the fire without the wick, and the fire consumed them. Immediately after this story, God speaks to Aaron and says, Yayin v'shekar al tesht, do not drink wine or strong drink when you enter the tent of meeting, lest you die. This is not a suggestion. It is a law. And the reason is not that God is against pleasure. The reason is that intoxication and true holiness are incompatible. You cannot enter the sacred space of your life, the space where real decisions are made, where relationships are built, where your purpose is lived, under the influence of a substance that shrinks your vessel and dims your perception. The tree of knowledge, the first drink that changed everything. And then there is the very first story. The Talmud in Sanhedrin 70a records the opinion that the tree of knowledge, the tree in the Garden of Eden whose fruit Adam and Eve consumed, was a grapevine. The first sin was not about an apple. It was about wine, about consuming a substance before the vessel was ready to hold it. The rabbis teach that had Adam and Eve waited, had they built the vessel through discipline and preparation, the same fruit would have been used for kiddush, for sanctification, for holiness, for celebration. Wine is not inherently evil. Wine in the right vessel, at the right time, with the right consciousness, is sacred. But wine consumed prematurely, without the vessel, without readiness, without discipline, that is the fall of humanity. That is the loss of Eden. Do you see what the Torah is telling you? It is not telling you that wine is evil. It is telling you that wine without a vessel is destruction, that the substance is not the problem. The lack of the vessel is the problem. And every time you reach for a drink to fill an emptiness that the drink cannot fill, you are reenacting the oldest story in human history. You are reaching for the fruit before you are ready, and the result is not transcendence, it is shame. Let me tell you about a man I will call Noam. Noam was a surgeon, 52 years old. Brilliant hands, steady nerves, respected by every colleague in his hospital. He had spent 26 years saving lives. He had rebuilt shattered bones, reconnected severed nerves, pulled people back from the edge of death. He was, by any measure, a man whose life had meaning. And every night, when he came home from the hospital, he drank. Not dramatically, not sloppily. Noam was far too disciplined for that. 2 glasses of whisky, sometimes 3, poured neatly, consumed in his study, alone, with the door closed, while his wife and children moved through the house on the other side. The whisky was his ritual, his decompression, his way of transitioning from the intensity of the operating theater to the ordinariness of domestic life. He did not think of himself as someone with a problem. He was not an alcoholic. He did not get drunk. He did not miss work. He did not stumble. He simply, every single night, poured 2 glasses of amber liquid and sat in silence until the weight of the day dissolved. His wife Dina saw it differently. She had been watching for 15 years. She saw the door close every evening. She saw the distance growing. She saw a man who was physically present and emotionally absent. She saw her children learn to speak quietly around their father after 8 in the evening. She saw the slow, imperceptible erosion of a family that looked perfect from the outside and was hollowing from within. One night, their 14-year-old son knocked on the study door. Noam did not answer. The boy opened it and found his father asleep in the chair, the glass still in his hand, a trail of whisky down the front of his shirt. The boy stood there for a long time. Then he closed the door, went to his room, and did not speak to his father for 3 days. It was Dina who called me, not Noam. Noam did not believe he had a problem. "Rabbi," she said, "my husband is a good man. He saves lives. He provides for his family. He has never raised his voice. But he is disappearing. Every evening, he walks into that study, and a little more of him does not come back out. And I am afraid that one day all of him will be gone." When I sat with Noam, he was polite but guarded. He did not want to be there. He believed the conversation was unnecessary. He was not an addict. He was a man who enjoyed a drink after work. Millions of people did the same. I asked him one question: "Noam, what happens in the operating theater in the moment when a life is in your hands and everything depends on your next decision?" His face changed. For the first time, something behind his eyes moved. "It is the only time I feel completely alive," he said. "When I am operating, there is nothing else. No bills, no mortgage, no noise. Just the patient, the instrument, and the task. Everything is clear. Everything matters. I am..." He paused, searching for the word. "I am present, fully real." And when you leave the theater, the light went out of his eyes. It stops. Everything stops. The clarity is gone. The presence is gone. I walk out and the world is flat, gray, like someone turned the color off. And I drive home, and the flatness follows me, and I sit in my study, and the whiskey. He stopped. "The whiskey turns the color back on?" I said. He nodded. For about an hour, then it is gray again, but at least I can sleep. I said, Noam, you are not an alcoholic. You are a man whose soul has tasted razzo, transcendence, in the operating theater and cannot bear the shove, the return to ordinary life. The intensity of saving a life is your encounter with the infinite, and the whiskey is your way of surviving the crash back to earth. You are not drinking because you love whiskey. You are drinking because you do not know how to carry the fire from the theater into the living room, so you numb yourself instead. Noam did not respond for a long time. Then, very quietly, no one has ever described it that way. That is exactly what it is, the crash. I am crashing every night, and the whiskey is my parachute. It is not a parachute, I said. A parachute lands you safely. The whiskey lands you in a study with the door closed, while your son stands on the other side wondering where his father went. That sentence broke something open, because Dina had told me about the boy at the door, and Noam had not known that anyone knew. I taught Noam the framework I will teach you shortly, the 4 steps for building a vessel that can carry the fire of transcendence without needing to numb it with a substance. It was not easy. Noam's identity was built around the whiskey ritual. Removing it felt like removing a load-bearing wall. But over 4 months, something shifted. He began spending the first 20 minutes after arriving home not in the study, but in the kitchen. Not drinking, sitting, breathing, letting the crash happen, letting the grayness arrive without fighting it. And then, this was the key, doing something small and ordinary with full presence, helping his daughter with homework, setting the table, asking his wife about her day, not as distraction, as shove, as the sacred return. The first week was brutal. The craving screamed. The second week was hard. The third was uncomfortable. The fourth was different, not easy, different. The grayness was still there, but it was no longer a prison. It was a room, and the room had people in it, his family, who had been waiting for him on the other side of the study door for 15 years. Noam has not had a drink in 3 years. His son, who is now 17, told me, "Rabbi, my father used to close the door every night. Before I continue, I need you to do something. If you see yourself in Noam, if you have been closing the door, if you have been using alcohol to survive the gap between intensity and ordinary life, if you have been numbing what needs to be felt, write in the comments, 'Tonight I will leave the door open.' This is not a metaphor. Tonight, when the craving comes, and it will come, do not close the door. Sit in the open. Let the grayness arrive, and let the people who love you see you in it. That is the beginning." The 4 steps to stop drinking. From the inside out. This is not a detox program. This is not a 12-step program. This is a vessel-building program, based on the Torah's own instructions to Aaron after the death of his sons, the instructions for how to enter the sacred space of your life without being destroyed. I call this the Open Door Protocol. Step 1. Name the real wound. Alcohol is never the problem. Alcohol is the solution to a problem you have not named, and as long as the real problem remains unnamed, you will keep reaching for the false solution. Sit down, alone, in silence, and ask yourself, what am I actually escaping? What is the feeling that arrives in the minutes before I reach for the drink? Is it emptiness, anxiety, boredom, loneliness, grief? The feeling that life is passing you by and you are watching from behind glass? Name it. Write it down. Do not analyze it. Do not solve it. Just name it. Because a wound that is named can be treated. A wound that is hidden festers. And the alcohol is the bandage that keeps you from seeing the wound. For Noam, the wound was the crash, the unbearable gap between transcendence and ordinary life. For others, it is grief. For others, it is loneliness. For others, it is the feeling of being trapped in a life that does not match the one they imagined. The wound is different for everyone, but the pattern is the same. The wound exists, the drink hides it, and the hiding makes it worse. Step 2. Build the transition. Hakana. Most people drink at transition points: the end of the workday, the beginning of the evening, the arrival home, the moment the children are in bed. These are the moments when the razzo of the day, the intensity, the forward momentum, the doing, suddenly stops, and the shove, the return to stillness, begins. And the transition is jarring. It is in this jarring gap that the craving lives. The Torah calls the preparation for entering sacred space Hakana. You do not leap from the ordinary into the holy. You prepare, you transition, you build a runway. Practically, create a transition ritual that replaces the drink. When you arrive home, do not go to the kitchen, do not go to the cabinet. Sit in your car for 5 minutes, or sit in a chair by the front door. Close your eyes. Take 10 slow breaths. Acknowledge the day you have had. Let the intensity dissipate naturally, without chemical assistance. Feel the crash. Let it arrive. It will not kill you. It feels unbearable, but it is not. It is just unfamiliar, and unfamiliar is not the same as unbearable. After the 10 breaths, enter your home as a person, not as a function, not as a worker decompressing, not as a parent performing, as a person returning. This is the shove. This is the sacred return, and it does not require a single drop of alcohol. Step 3. Fill the vessel with something real. Kedusha. The drink fills a void. If you remove the drink and leave the void, the craving will eat you alive. You must fill the void with something real, not with another distraction, with something sacred. The Kabbalists call this Kedusha, holiness, and holiness in the Torah is not about cathedrals and incense. Holiness is about bringing full, conscious presence to an ordinary moment. It is the opposite of numbness. Numbness removes you from reality. Kedusha plunges you into it. Practically, replace the drink with a sacred act. After your transition, do one thing with your full presence. Cook dinner, not while scrolling your phone, not while watching television. Cook. Feel the food in your hands. Smell the spices. Create something nourishing for the people you love. Or sit with your child and listen, not half listen while thinking about work, but listen with your full attention. Or take a walk outside. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel the air on your skin. Be in the world, fully, without the anesthetic. This is what the drink was pretending to provide. Presence, relief from the noise, a moment of being fully here, but the drink provided a counterfeit version, a blurred, diminished, borrowed version. Kedusha provides the real thing, presence without the hangover, stillness without the fog, peace without the price. Step 4. Let yourself be seen. Bitul. The deepest reason people drink is not pain. It is the fear of being seen in their pain. Noam closed the study door because he could not let his family see the gray, depleted version of himself. He could not let them see that the man who saved lives during the day did not know how to live his own life in the evening. The whisky allowed him to hide. The closed door was the real addiction. Bitul means allowing yourself to be transparent, not performing strength, not performing recovery, not performing happiness. Being real, being seen in the grayness, in the fatigue, in the not knowing. This is the hardest step, and it is the one that heals. Because the moment you let someone see you without the mask, the moment you sit at the dinner table tired, uncertain, human, without the chemical armor, something extraordinary happens. You discover that you do not need to be transcendent to be loved. You do not need to be extraordinary to be enough. You can be the gray, tired, ordinary version of yourself. And the people who love you will not leave. They will move closer. The drink says, hide. Bittel says, be seen. And being seen is the most terrifying and the most healing thing a human being can do. What you may be thinking, Rabbi, I only drink socially. I am not an addict. This does not apply to me. I did not say the word addict once in this entire teaching. Addiction is a medical condition and should be treated with professional help. What I am talking about is something more subtle and more widespread. The habit of using alcohol as a substitute for the things your soul actually needs. You do not need to be an addict for the drink to be stealing from you. If you cannot enjoy an evening without it, if you cannot celebrate without it, if you cannot relax without it, if you cannot be yourself without it, it is stealing from you. Even if you only have 2 glasses, even if you never get drunk. But the Torah includes wine in sacred rituals. Is wine not sacred? Wine in its proper place is sacred. Kiddush on Shabbat, the 4 cups at Passover, a toast at a wedding. But the Torah is precise about this. Wine is sanctified when it is contained within a vessel of consciousness, intention, and discipline. Wine that is consumed to escape, to numb, to fill a void, that is Eish Zarah. The substance is identical. The consciousness is opposite, and the consciousness is what determines whether the fire illuminates or destroys. I have tried to stop before and I could not. What makes this different? Most approaches to quitting alcohol focus on removing the drink. This approach focuses on filling the void that the drink was filling. Willpower removes the symptom. Vessel building addresses the cause. When the cause is addressed, when the real wound is named, when the transition is built, when the void is filled with something sacred, when you allow yourself to be seen, the drink loses its power. Not because you are resisting it, because you no longer need it. I am asking you for 30 days, not forever. 30 days. You can do anything for 30 days. Day 1. Name the wound. Sit alone for 20 minutes. No phone, no music, no distraction. Ask yourself, what am I actually escaping when I drink? Write the answer down. Keep it. Days 2 through 30. No alcohol, not less alcohol, not only on weekends. 0. For 30 days. Because 30 days is the minimum time for your brain's dopamine system to begin recalibrating. 30 days is how long it takes for the real feelings, the ones that have been buried under the chemical, to start surfacing. Every evening, the transition ritual, when the craving arrives, and it will arrive, especially in the first 2 weeks, sit for 10 minutes. Breathe. Let the craving peak and pass. It will pass. It always passes. Then do one ordinary thing with full presence. Cook, walk, listen, create. Fill the void with kedusha, not with a glass. Once a week, be seen. Tell someone, your partner, a friend, a sibling, that you are doing this. Not because you need accountability, because bitul, because letting yourself be seen in the struggle is part of the healing. The drink thrives in secrecy. Transparency starves it. At the end of 30 days, you will not be the same person. Your sleep will be different. Your mornings will be different. Your clarity will be different. The colors of your life will have returned, real colors, not chemical ones. And you will know in your body, not just in your mind, that the drink was never giving you what you needed. It was taking what you had. In the comments, write, I choose 30 days of truth. Write it now, because the life on the other side of the bottle is the life you have been missing. My friends, let me leave you with this. You were not made to be numb. You were not made to watch your life through the bottom of a glass. You were not made to perform all day and collapse into chemical silence every night. You were made to feel, to be present, to carry the weight of your own life, not because the weight is light, but because you are strong enough. The Torah teaches that after Noah emerged from the flood, God placed a rainbow in the sky, a sign, a covenant, a promise that destruction would not come again. That rainbow is still there. It appears after every storm, and it appears in color. Color, not the manufactured color of intoxication, not the chemical brightness that fades to gray by morning. Real color, the color of a world seen clearly, the color of a meal shared with people you love, the color of your child's face when they know you are fully there, the color of a life that does not need a substance to be bearable, because it is not merely bearable, it is sacred. May the one who brought Noah through the flood bring you through this storm. May the door of your life be open tonight. May the people who love you find you present, unarmored and real. May you discover that the peace you were searching for at the bottom of the glass was waiting for you all along, in the silence, in the ordinary, in the sacred act of being fully alive. And may the words of the psalm guide your way. Bori li lev tahor, Elohim, create in me a pure heart, O God. Veruach nachon chadish bekerbi, and renew a steadfast spirit within me. A pure heart, a steadfast spirit. That is what waits for you on the other side of the bottle, and it is worth every difficult night between here and there. Shalom.